Hey, it's Mustafa, and in today's video we're going to be going over how to build the perfect website in order to get more conversions and make more money. Now, straight off the bat, you might be thinking, why is this important, or do I even really need it? But the answer to that is yes. If you do have an e-commerce store, right, you could be making not only more revenue but more profit as well by just making a few changes to your website, and that's it. So you don't have to spend more on ads, you don't have to do any partnerships or nothing like that. All you do is get your current website, test a few things, make more money, right? So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So building the perfect website to maximize sales, right? Now, having a high converting website, this won't only increase your revenue, right, which is what I'm talking about, but it will also skyrocket your margins, as it will make it a lot cheaper to acquire customers, right? As you can imagine, if you're getting, so how conversion rate works, right? If you're getting 100 people to come onto your site, and let's say you're paying for those 100 people to come onto your website through ads, etc. Now, if you have a 2% conversion rate, to get 100 people onto your website, if that costs you, let's say £10 or $10, just to make this math simple, right? And let's say 2% of people converted and they spent $20, right? So you spent 10, made 20. Now, if you have a conversion rate of 3 or 4%, let's say 4%, 4 of them converted, let's say they all spent 10, just to keep the math simple. So now you spent 10 to get 100 people to your website, but now you've made 400, right? So not 400, 40. So that's a 3 times ROAS compared to a 2 times ROAS, right? And yeah, obviously that's just to make the math simple. In real life scenarios, that will obviously be a lot more drastic, right? And you're aiming for a higher ROAS as well. But using this exact strategy has helped e-commerce brands, right, add an extra 6 to 7 figures to their business through nothing but just a few website changes. So you should definitely pay attention. Now, some common mistakes that I see a lot of people make when it comes to optimizing their website, doing this A/B testing, etc., is they guess what change will work better, so they don't base off any actual data or information or logic. It's just they feel like this is going to work, so they test it, just wasting your time and potentially money as well. They make multiple unrelated changes at the same time as well, which is even worse, right? So if you make multiple just unrelated changes, that's bad. If you do it all at the same time, it's even worse, right? Not saying they don't set any KPIs, right? And they don't track their results, which, I mean, if you don't track it, you can't improve it. And also, let's say you just ran a test, right? You don't know if it's better or not if you didn't track it properly. So it's actually one of the most important things, right? And you want to set KPIs as well to see if, it actually hit your goal of how much, you wanted your conversion rate to improve. Thinking how you feel about the site, how it looks, etc. It looking better is worth more to you than it actually performing better, right? So do you want to feel good or do you want to make more money, right? That's basically the dilemma here, but I'll let you decide that. Now, so here's what to do instead, right? It's going to be a quick step-by-step, and yeah, let's get right into it. So first, you want to research. As I was talking about, you don't just want to make changes based on how you feel or anything like that. Trust me, you need to look at the data, which is already presented to you. Shopify has it, your Google Analytics should have it, and you can also download some apps for some of these stuff. But yeah, so we can't just go ahead and make random changes, as I said, based on how you feel. We need to actually take a look at all the data that we already have of the customer's behavior, and based on that, make strategic changes that will actually move the needle, right? We also, when we do test off, I don't think I have it here, but when we do test off, we place it in like a hierarchy of what will move the needle the most, and we test that first, right? We have like a whole system of how we rank that, etc. But yeah, so here's a few things that we look at when we do research. Heat maps, you're gonna have to get like an app for that, etc. Shopify has loads. You can use Microsoft Clarity, but yeah, make sure to look at heat maps. We test website usability. That's quite important, obviously. You can actually go into Google Analytics and check the conversions per device, and maybe on the devices that aren't converting, you can go ahead and check those aspect ratios and see why that might be, right? Test to see if it's usable, etc. You can take a look at the analytics to see any major drop-off points. So if a lot of people add to cart, but a lot of people don't check out, right? That part, or through Google Analytics, you can see other points where people don't go through with it, or you can look at heat maps, right? You can see to what point, like where people scroll to, right, where people don't scroll to, etc. Make your decisions based off that. And lastly, we also do conduct customer surveys, which is key, right? You can get a lot of data by just conducting a simple customer survey. So yeah, now the next part is you need to make your hypothesis, right? So after taking a look at all the research that you've done, you can now see or have at least some sort of idea about where the friction points are, what's missing or what might be extra. So now you can come up with a hypothesis that you will test for, right? So this can be something like, if we display a lock icon on the checkout page button, then sales will increase as now they have more trust, right? And the best part about this is, if this test that you've done, so this is obviously an example, but if this is a test that you've done and it end up being a winner, right? So hit your KPIs, good results, etc. We now know that your audience was lacking trust, right? So what we can do now is we can base our future tests that we, take after this around that as well, basically. So for example, now you can test maybe adding a payment icon on the cart or product page in order to build up even more trust, right? See how that does. So that's what I meant. So when I talked about before, you don't just make random unrelated changes. What you do is, as I said, you have it in a hierarchy, right? We have a way to actually put them in a hierarchy. So we have a SOP that we go through, but you put them in a hierarchy, you test the most important one. And if that hypothesis, right, ends up being true, then you test around that, basically, if that makes sense. So yeah. Now this one's quite self-explanatory, and it's now you just go ahead, make the change, right, and cross-test it with your current website. For A/B testing, we use a software called VWO, which allows you to split test multiple things and gives you good visual data to see which variant performed better. And you can actually set like your goal or what like KPI you want, etc., stuff like that on there. So let me quickly just go ahead and show you. Hold on. So you basically just go into it. So it's vwo.com. Go onto it, and when you come onto here, you press create test, right? A/B test, name it anything. Let's just say secure checkout button lock, right? That's the example I gave earlier. So yeah, you want to do website obviously, and A/B test, right? Create, and that will go ahead and create it for you. And you put your website URL here, or the page that you want to take them to. You can include multiple, or you can exclude pages as well. And then you come here, so this will be your normal website, and you can add a variation, and you can go ahead, press edit, and it will take you to the website that you put, and you can actually go in and edit pieces there. And after that, if you don't have any information in right now, but you'll be able to see the metrics here, the audience and traffic, and a bunch of other stuff. So that's how we do that. Let's leave this quickly. Now the next thing is we drawing learning, right? As mentioned in the hypothesis part, we see the test result and base our next decisions around those learnings, right? So our next tests will be around that initial test if it did perform well, or if it didn't perform well. So the opposite works as well. So let's say you tested something and it either didn't change anything, or worse, it made the results worse, then that that's not the issue with your website. So the next test that you run, you won't run anything like that. But I guess you could. I'd say maybe you run something else, one more, just to see, or maybe 3, just to make sure. And if it doesn't move at all, then there's no point. But I wouldn't suggest doing this first. I'd suggest doing, the things that actually do work and are successful and are winners initially. And maybe after you get those all down, you might want to test these, less efficient stuff or things that didn't really work, just to make sure. But that's later, right? Anyway, so some of the questions you want to ask yourself, or we ask ourselves after this, right? So after we get the results back, etc., is what can we learn from this, right? So as I said, in that example I gave, we can learn that our customers or our audience was lacking trust. So we note that down. What does this say about customer behavior? Well, you can see that they're really willing to buy, right? As long as they can, trust you, right? It's kind of a basic one. We obviously look more into this, but what other experiments can we now think of now that we know this, right? So now that we know these 2 points, so they need trust or they lack trust, and they're actually really willing to buy as long as there is trust. As I said, we might also test something like, maybe we can add payment icons on the product page, on the cart page, see how that does as well, right? So that's what it means when I say, that's what it means when it says what other experiments can we now think of now that we know this, right? And the last and final step, as you can see, is repeat, right? Just keep doing this until you get your website, as it says here, right? The perfect website to maximize sales. So you just keep doing this until you get to the point where you're happy with it, and your conversion rate is good, right? Now, a good conversion rate does vary. I want to mention that based on your niche and your target audience and just a bunch of stuff, your products, etc. So your conversion rate does depend based on that. But I can guarantee you, regardless of what niche you're in, what you sell, your conversion rate can be improved, right? So yeah, so we repeat this process 4 times a month, which means we run 4 major split tests for our clients on a monthly basis. And also, I think it's worth mentioning, the more traffic, the better and more accurate the results will be. So I would suggest at least like in the 5 figures of traffic, so a month that is, right? Or per split test as well. Actually, a per split test. If you can have, this is perfect. If you can have 5 figures, so over 10,000 visitors per split test, so 5,000 in one, 5,000 in another, then that's perfect. Like that's the bare minimum, I'd say, in order to get really accurate results. Any more than that, you get even more accurate results. But yeah, now that's everything for this video. If you have an e-commerce brand and you're looking to get this done for you, plus a lot more other stuff as well, there's a link right there in the description. You can go ahead and check out. If not, completely fine as well. But yeah, that's everything. See you guys next time.